Before humanity was born, there was another class, another group, another rebellion. They were called the Igigi, and their story is buried so deep that even most truthers don't say their name. Because once you speak it, you start to remember who we replaced. Everyone online talks about the Anunnaki like they're one simple alien race. But in the oldest Sumerian and Akkadian tablets, the word Anunnaki is a category, not a species. They were the high gods, associated with rulership, judgment and order. They held the codes, the plans, but they didn't do the labour. The labour was given to another group, the Igigi, younger gods, worker gods, assigned to dig the canals, raise the structures, sustain the flow of the new world. In the Epic of Atrahasis, their job is described in brutal simplicity. They worked without rest, digging the paths of rivers, carving the bones of the earth for thousands of years, until they couldn't anymore. The Igigi snapped. They gathered their strength and marched on the divine stronghold. The myth says they surrounded the house of Enlil. They didn't ask, they rose up. It was the first workers' rebellion in recorded myth, and it terrified the gods, so the Anunnaki met in council. Not to free the Igigi, but to find a replacement, a new being who could absorb the burden. A species designed to obey, to till the land, to maintain the system. That's where humans entered the story. You were told you were created to be crowned as divine, but the oldest tablets tell a different tale. They say we were made to be the new workforce, the obedient flesh that wouldn't rise. A patch, a fix, a solution to a divine mutiny. In the story, the Igigi disappear. Some say they were freed. Some say they were punished. Some say they're still here, silent and watching as we do the work they once resisted. But one thing is clear, the pattern hasn't changed. Rebellion, replacement, population control. That's not a conspiracy theory, that's the foundation myth, carved into tablets older than Rome. This was never about aliens. It was about labour and systems that don't want to be disrupted. So now ask yourself, who are you in this story? The creator, the controller, the replacement, or the one who remembers what came before the rewrite? The first time the world heard the Anunnaki as aliens from another planet wasn't in Sumer. It wasn't in Babylon, it was in the 1970s. In the pages of a book written by Zecharia Sitchin, a man who said he could read the tablets, a man who rewrote the rebellion. As a space mining mission gone wrong. Sitchin's version was seductive. It had all the flair, rocket ships, ancient astronauts, gold for atmosphere repair, a planet called Nibiru on a long elliptical orbit. It had just one problem. It's not what the tablets say. Real Assyriologists, even fringe-friendly ones, have repeatedly shown that Sitchin didn't read Sumerian. So how did his version spread? Because it was shiny, it was safe, it turned the control system into a cosmic misunderstanding. A mistake, a sci-fi experiment. Gone was the worker revolt, gone was the divine hierarchy, gone was the template for how systems replace rebels with slaves. In its place, space drama. And once that rewrite caught fire, it was everywhere. Books, documentaries, History Channel, even the word Anunnaki started to mean alien in modern slang. But go back to the source, and there's no spaceship, no Nibiru, no gold mining. Just gods, councils, workers, revolt, and a cold decision to make a new being who would never rise up. Why erase that? Why hide the Igigi rebellion beneath a story of starmen and metallurgy? Because power hates memory, because every control system must rewrite its own origin. So the ones at the bottom never find out they weren't always there. The true danger of the Igigi story isn't that it's ancient, it's that it's cyclical. Pattern, worker class, system overload, rebellion, replacement. Sound familiar? Look at today. Who's building the smart cities? Who's coding the grids? Who's training the AI? The human labour force, exhausted, divided, surveilled. And what's rising up next? A new creation, not of clay, but of code. Another replacement. That's why the Anunnaki myth had to be changed. So you'd never ask what came before me, who did this work first, and what happened to them when they said no. The truth is this, they didn't want you to see the Igigi as a mirror. They wanted you to see the Anunnaki as saviours. Because saviours don't scare you, but mirrors do. Especially when the reflection shows a worker about to remember they weren't born to obey. The revolt wasn't a metaphor, it was carved into clay. In the Atrahasis epic, a Babylonian copy of an even older Sumerian source, the gods are tired, but not all of them. Younger gods, force workers, digging canals, raising cities, hauling earth itself for 3,600 years. Then comes the line they try to gloss over. The gods had to dig out the canals, hard work and heavy toil. The Gigi gods dug out the Tigris riverbed and then dug out the Euphrates thereafter. This isn't symbolic, it's infrastructure. The rivers weren't just rivers, they were engineered veins for energy control, floodgates. The Igigi were building the circuit. And then it says the gods were digging watercourses, they were clearing canals, the lifelines of the land. Enuma Elish. Atrahasis composite the lifelines. That's not poetry, that's frequency architecture. The grid, the burden becomes too much, so what do the Igigi do? They march. They set fire to their tools, they surrounded the house of Enlil. Atrahasis, that's the part they downplay. Because it's not just refusal, it's organisation. They didn't wander off, they moved as one, like a soul class remembering itself. Now the texts break formation because something strange happens next. The Anunnaki don't punish them, they hold a meeting, and they propose a solution. Let us create a Lulu, a human being to bear the yoke to do the work of the gods. Atrahasis Tablet 1, column 6. Lulu doesn't mean man in the poetic sense, it means substitute labour, a being made to carry the weight. Here's the hidden code: they don't create humans from scratch, they kill one of their own. Let one god be slaughtered, so all the gods may be cleansed by his blood. They take the blood of a rebellious god called Weila or Geshtu, depending on translation, and mix it with clay. That's not a creation myth, that's a binding spell. Blood of the rebel, clay of the earth, mixed under instruction, formed by incantation. This wasn't evolution, this was ritual punishment. Seal the rebellion inside the body of the next race. Scripture echoes it too. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the earth. Genesis 1:26. But dominion doesn't mean freedom, it means management, function. You were made in the image of the system. And here's where they got sloppy. In the Book of Enoch, a banned text from the canon, but quoted in Jude 1:14, we hear again of a class of beings sent to earth to work, to teach, to fall. And the Watchers descended on Mount Hermon. It's the same structure, another layer of the Igigi class. Being broken, scattered, punished. But the real hidden code is this. Across the clay tablets, the Hebrew scriptures, and the forbidden books, one pattern holds. A group comes down, they're forced to labour. They rise up, they're either destroyed or scattered, and something new is made to take their place. The human wasn't made to thrive, the human was made to contain, to bind the flame of rebellion in flesh, to seal the memory of revolt in a body that fears its own death more than it remembers its own past. The name Igigi appears in the tablets, but its meaning is deliberately broken. Some say it means those who gaze. Some say the Watchers. Some say eyes of fire. But they all agree on one thing: they came before us. They worked before us, and something about their fate was buried with us. So we don't guess, we don't fantasize. We recover from the tablets, from the scrolls, from the flame. The Igigi were real, their revolt was real, and your body was designed to make sure it never happened again until now. They were clearing canals, the lifelines of the land. Atrahasis Enuma Elish composite. Most readers take this as basic irrigation, but it's not just about watering crops. The tablets use precise phrasing, lifelines of the land. That's a frequency term. In Sumerian cosmology, rivers weren't just water, they were divine arteries, pathways that carried life force, vibration and law. Clearing canals wasn't farming, it was terraforming, shaping energy routes, just like meridians in the human body but across the surface of Earth. And the ones doing this shaping were not kings, not priests, but the Igigi. They set fire to their tools, they surrounded the house of Enlil. Atrahasis Tablet 1. Now this is the part they tried to erase. The word used in the tablets for tools isn't just physical instruments. It can also mean symbols of service or tools of bondage. To burn them was ritual, it was revolt. It was the first strike against divine control written into any surviving human record. And surrounding the house of Enlil, that's not metaphor, that's sage language. In ancient Mesopotamian statecraft, to surround a temple or palace was to challenge the divine order. Enlil wasn't just a god, he was the executor of command, the voice of the sky hierarchy, the one who enforced the burden. For the Igigi to march together and encircle his seat of power was not rebellion, it was war. This wasn't just some myth about lazy gods. This was a contained memory of a time when the ruling class was confronted by the builders beneath them. The tools burned was the old system collapsing. The circle around Enlil was the return of balance through uprising. And the fact that they carved this into clay and hid it in temple libraries means the scribes knew that this was dangerous truth. They couldn't speak it directly, but they encoded it in the work songs of gods. The revolt shook them. The Igigi didn't just disobey. They exposed the whole structure. Here's what the tablets say. Let us slay one god, let his blood be mixed with clay. So man will carry the labour, and the gods may rest. Atrahasis, Tablet 1, Column 6. The god they chose was called Waila, or Geshtui in other versions. His name means wisdom or intelligence. He wasn't a rebel, he was a divine strategist. He knew how the structure worked, and he was sacrificed. His blood was spilled, his essence stripped and mixed with the clay of the earth. This is the original ritual spell used to create human bodies. The line from the tablets, with his flesh and his blood, let the goddess mix clay. Why? This is not metaphor, this is binding magic. Clay is density, blood is memory, flesh is containment. They weren't birthing a race, they were building a prison for the soul that remembers revolt. And the goddess who performed it was Nintu, also known as Baletili Mami. She wasn't acting as mother, she was acting as ritual technician. She cast the mixture, spoke the incantation, and sealed the form. You have slaughtered a god together. With his personality you have wiped out sin. I have imposed your toil on man. Atrahasis? This is the cold core of the creation myth. It was never sacred. It was a containment order. Even the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, echoes the same. Man will be charged with the service of the gods, that they might be at ease. We weren't made for freedom. We were made to relieve the gods of their burden. And the burden was revolt. So the first human was born from the blood of a sacrificed god and the clay of the earth, and a spoken spell designed to seal memory inside matter. This is the hidden technology of the Lulu Amelu, the bound human form. Every organ, every frequency calibrated to sustain the grid. And here's the deepest secret. They didn't destroy the Igigi, they embedded them into the next layer of creation. They bound the fire of rebellion into the first humans. Not to honour it, but to bury it. Because it was your fire they used to forge the cage. So when you ask what humans are, don't look to evolution, don't look to fantasy, look to the clay spell, the soul transfer, the ritual death of the one who knew too much, because the Lulu were not made to rise. They were made to carry the weight of a rebellion they were never supposed to remember, but memory is not always physical, so they added one more layer. They cursed the mind, they blurred the dream. They sealed the soul in sleep. Let man be stupefied in understanding, let him not know the days of his life. Atrahasis. The body became the labour, the blood carried the silence, but it was the dream that held the lock, and now the lock is failing, the flame is leaking through. The ones they buried in clay are waking in skin. The revolt didn't end, it just moved inside us, and now that you remember, it begins again.